All right, 2025 was a pretty big year for me when it came to Artist Alley. My second year in a row of vending, not including small markets and pop-up shops, I managed to hit up 15 conventions this year alone. Like I said, I've only been doing this for 2 years. It was a lot of traveling for me, but yeah, definitely the most profitable year I've ever had in my life. Along with shows, I was also balancing my other jobs, which includes video editing and writing for game and animations. I've been seeing other people do these kinds of videos, and now it reaffirmed my desire to make one of these. I'll be going through and reviewing all 15 conventions I hit up this year. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Jay, the artist behind Jay Purier. I'm also the prophet to the criminal Torty Cat Mungie. Yeah, I don't table full-time, but I do it a lot, I guess. Just keep in mind that anything that you guys see here, take it with a grain of salt. My experiences might differ from yours. I hope this is helpful for you, but just keep in mind of the product that you guys have versus the product I have, the fandoms that I hit, the fandoms that you guys hit. It could all be different for everyone. Let's get started. The first con I did this year was Lone Star Fur Con, which I'm very happy to be back for 2026. It's actually going to be my first event next year as well. My first furry show ever. I will say the vibes are immaculate just because the furry community is really nice. This is Austin, Texas's first furry focused convention, and it was definitely a learning curve because with furry shows, your Artist Alley tables are smaller. They're like 3 feet wide that you share with a neighbor. I had very low expectations for it because it's a small show, it's a first year show, and I wasn't sure if my stuff vibed with the furry community. I thankfully have a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog and Pokemon stuff, and it was kind of furry adjacent. Some Anthro stuff like Danganronpa kind of fit in, but I don't plan to have that. Now that I have more experience with furry shows, I know what to focus on in terms of my merch. Again, the furry community was just so welcoming, and all the artists there were just really nice. I will say for a lot of furry shows, I do think organization is not the best because it's a lot of volunteers from the community who are spending their time outside of their regular jobs and their free time to put the show together. I don't hold that against them too much, but just something to keep in mind for those who are curious about attending their first furry show. My expenses were really cheap because, you know, local-ish to Texas, it's still like a 3-hour drive. Biggest expenses were the hotel. If you haven't watched my vlogs for any of my furry shows, just want to tell you here that furry shows require a separate registration. You do have to pay for your own badge outside of paying the Artist Alley table fee, which is usually why the Artist Alley tables are really cheap. In this case, it was $15. I think it went up to $30 next year for a full weekend. Honestly, I didn't even expect to make over like 1,000 that weekend, and I did. So that was really nice. I think it also, because it was the first year and maybe Austin, the Austin furry community was just so hungry for a furry show there. I'm happy to return to it next year and grow with it. My next show was Emerald City Comic Con. This is technically my first Comic Con, and I heard a lot of good things about ECCC. Yeah, I really liked it. I do think it's table dependent. However, even though I was in the last row this year, I still did pretty well. It does help that it's a 4-day show because as a Comic Con, the vibe is more comic booky. However, anime stuff still does well there. I was surprised by how much my Zenless Zone Zero stuff did well there. I also started debuting my newer phone charms, the Batman phone charms, and this is where I'm starting to learn that there are DC fans out there and they are hungry. Lone Star Fur Con, I debuted my Sonic shirt, and they did very well at Emerald City Comic Con, and now they kind of serve as like a banner for my booth. It's kind of how people find me now. The biggest thing about Emerald City Comic Con is that the expenses are super duper high. Seattle is an awesome city, but really expensive. My flight was really cheap. The table was, it was like $435 for 4 days. It's not bad. But even with staying with a friend that lived 15 minutes away from the convention center, my lifts altogether was close to $500. It was crazy. For a 15-minute ride, it was like $45 to $60 one way. I think ultimately maybe I did save more, because a hotel in that area could have been between $250 to $300 to $400 a night. So I think I saved money. I would absolutely do the show again. I'm a little disappointed that I got waitlisted for next year. Maybe they're just rotating artists out, but I hope I get off the wait list, especially because Guri Hiru is gonna be there and they're my favorite Japanese illustrator. And, oh, please, I wanna meet them and buy stuff. Really recommend Emerald City Comic Con. I do think it's a bit competitive to get in. It is run by, I believe, Leap. It's organized by Leap Conventions or ReedPop. I had to double check on that, but because their applications look similar, but they always ask, for any Comic-Con show, they ask what your credentials are in terms of the industry. I don't think that's necessary. I've definitely seen artists there who don't have industry level credentials, but I definitely talked about the things that I did. You know, my work on Date Everything, my work on Pal and Pals, my previous work with Nickelodeon Lego. Although a lot of the stuff is not as relevant currently, if you have anything, even the smallest amount of freelance for a brand, even if it's not a big brand, just throw it on there. They have an other section for a reason, so you never know. Would definitely do this show again. I really enjoyed it. My next show was Kawaii Kon. This is the second time I returned to Kawaii Kon in a row. I love it. It's a great vibe. I love the artist community down there. There's so many nice, cool, and really talented people in Hawaii. And once they start doing more mainline shows, we're all cooked, man. The art caliber there is fucking sick. I will say it's not a moneymaker. I did more than 2 times better than my first year at Kawaii Kon. Maybe because Kawaii Kon was technically my first convention ever, and I have much better organization now and more products. The table's around 300 is not bad, but the flight for me from Texas was around 600 round trip. Not the worst, but not the best. Thankfully, rideshare was really cheap. I thankfully stayed at a friend's house, so I didn't have to worry about hotel expenses, so my expenses were definitely lower. But if you're the type of person who likes to count food, gifts, and whatever in your trip expenses, I don't, because I try to just think about that as a different pocket of money that I'm like, yeah, this is money that doesn't actually exist. Then maybe your expenses might be higher. But honestly, it's a really nice vacation con. I think it's a good time. It's a good vibe. I was on the Artist Alley side. I will say, personally, when I look at the pro tables, they don't seem very different from the Artist Alley tables from what I see. I think the big thing is that you need to know, if you're ever traveling to Kawaii Kon, they do not allow standing fixtures for your booth, so you can't have any like photo stands behind the table. But what you can do is do clamps. Clamp them to the table and then just put some janky photo rods up and hope it holds. I really do love this show. It's always a good time. I did apply for it next year. I feel like it's gonna push me to constantly make new stuff by that time, so that I don't just fly with old stuff and people are like, oh yeah, no, I already got your stuff. Kawaii Kon, really, really good time. Love it. My next show was Texas Furry Fiesta, my second Furry Con ever. I didn't get accepted initially because it's local to me in Dallas. I went in for lottery. This past year, Texas Furry Fiesta had about 20 full-time artists for the weekend. So basically 20 tables were allotted to them. They were accepted and they're allowed to be there the entire weekend. They could keep their setup up. Now for Lotto, you can go in each day and put your name in the lottery for Artist Alley, and they will, by random, just draw a name from a hat, and then you go choose the table you want, bring that slip, because each table has like a little slip on it that has like the number of the table, and then you go up and accept your position. The problem is you have to be there every morning. You have to be there every morning, and if you get a lottery spot, well, you're only there for 1 day. So you have to take down your setup every day. And it is hectic. You have a little less than an hour, depending on when your name is called, to set up your whole thing. You have about 4 feet of space, which is a little bigger than Lone Star Fur Con. You have to haul all your stuff in a car, suitcases, whatever, and really hope that you get in. If you are denied for the lotto every day, Friday and Saturday, you are guaranteed a Sunday spot. That being said, I do recall Sunday being my slowest day. They didn't get into Friday, but I got into Saturday and Sunday. So Dealer's Den, what they call the exhibit hall for furry shows, Dealer's Den has a set hour of time. Because the Artist Alley is a bunch of tables lined up in the giant lobby of the hotel, you can stay there as long as you want, and people are hanging out there all the time. It is a big show that spans multiple hotel buildings. And I have seen people at the end of the day, like, oh, they ran out of merchandise, so they had a couple of fursuits and that's all they brought, and they sold out of everything, so they closed up their table. I'll be real, I've seen people just snipe the tables, even if they didn't get accepted in the lottery of that day. They just kind of hung around all day. You have to buy a badge first. The registration for that weekend this past year was around $110, I think, maybe $100. Table cost was $20 a day. You know, you're thinking like, wait, you have to buy a badge separate from the show. Like, I'm down for it for a furry show because it helps support the community, helps keep the events going and alive for the future, and because so you are giving to the community, which is awesome. And then why not just look around, have fun. Very exciting. Everyone's very nice. I got a lot of compliments because, again, this was my second furry show. I got a lot of compliments from people being like, I didn't know you did furry shows. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to break in. I'm trying to do new stuff, you know? I feel like I've discovered my furry identity much later in my life, and I'm still learning a lot about the culture. I just like looking at the cute animal, all the cute fursuits. It's great. Like, it's cool. If you are interested in furry shows, and if you're local to the Dallas area, I definitely recommend trying out Texas Furry Fiesta just to see if you can get in. If I didn't mention it before for Lone Star, commissions are what drive furry artist alleys. Be ready to do on-site commissions. But yeah, vibes, way up. The vibes of the shows were way up. One of my favorites. My next show is Anime Boston. This one is interesting to talk about. If you guys have watched my Anime Boston vlog, I was not the happiest in that show. As I learned in film school, let's talk about what works, and then let's talk about what can be improved. The staff, incredible. They're so nice. They really care about the artists. They treat you really well. They want to make sure everything's going well for you. They use their PA system that's not too loud to, you know, encourage people to, you know, spend money. They're wishing you luck to make money. They are going down the aisles and pushing, like gently pushing people closer to the table. Like, hey, make sure the middle is free so that people can walk through. And then if you're curious about going to the table, go to that table. Go look at stuff closer. And I'm like, this is awesome. Buying a separate badge. Now, I just talked about this for furry show, but the price is so much cheaper, right? And it helps gives back to the community. For Anime Boston, which already generates a lot of revenue, they might be under the assumption that you will make this back. And, you know, I'm pretty sure most people did make enough to afford their expenses and the badge. But the badge is pretty pricey. It's like, this past year was $113.30, and the table was $478.54 for 3 days. I believe the table price and badge have gone up. I've applied for next year. It is lotto, so good luck if you're able to get in. The price for next year, I think, including the badge, is like $700, which is like, that's a lot. So, but I think it's worth it. I got there pretty early, and now I know for my next year, like, they are truly like, you cannot go in. Artist alley people, vendors can go in, exhibitors can go in, but artist alley people cannot enter the exhibit hall or the artist alley hall before 7:30 p.m. Thursday, the day before the first day of the show. They are really strict about that. So I sat and waited for 5 hours outside the hall. Just arrive later. Just get a flight for later. Like, it's not worth coming early. I promise you that. This building's very huge. There's a hotel attached to a convention center, attached to a mall of some sort. There's like a cheesecake factory in there somewhere. I went through the hotel side. Oh my God, that hotel has so many carpets. If you are lugging like me, like 3 giant suitcases, oh my God, it's awful. I wish someone helped me. Nobody helped me. The staff just watched, and I was just like, oh my God, someone please. I was dying, and it was a lot. While the expenses were quite high for Anime Boston, in terms of profit, this was my best show. This was my first 5-figure show, period. I made more at this show than any other show this year. So money-making standards, it is the top. It's like top tier. However, vibes-wise, aside from the staff, I did not have a good time that weekend. The what could be improved, unfortunately, just falls upon, maybe I was having a bad weekend, but I felt like a lot of people were rude to me that weekend. Because Anime Boston, from my understanding, is the biggest show in that area. A lot of people from other states come over as well. I've had people from Rhode Island, I've had people from New York, I've had people from Maine, like everyone around the upper East Coast was all coming in. And I feel like there's a lot of normie crowd too. I had a lot of like, almost like Comic-Con-esque crowds coming in and like trying to haggle me for prices and complaining to my face that my prices are wrong, or like how someone drew something better or something. I had an incident where someone claimed they paid for their charm and I didn't give it to them. And I was like, okay, so I just gave them a free charm. And after doing my inventory count, I was one off. So I was like, this person just lost their charm and blamed me for it. So there was a lot of like really rude interactions. I absolutely would do Anime Boston again, but oh my God, I was not happy, not because of the show itself, but because a lot of the attendees there were just really, it reminded me of like a normie show here in Texas, like a lot of like people who just don't have a respect for artists. That being said, there were a lot of nice people as well. I'm just like the person to just only remember the mean people. So next show after that, my third furry show, Stratosfur. Kind of wild that I just dived into furry shows and I got to 3 in 1 year. So I was very happy about that. Hoping to do more in the future. People always say like, oh my God, the furries have money. And I saw this post on Blue Sky where someone was like, that could be true depending on what their occupation is. But I think most people in the furry community, they realize that their stuff would not exist without art. So they just really appreciate giving to artists. The most tips I've ever gotten at a show are from furry shows. And I just think that speaks well to the community. I didn't have as good of a time. Money-wise, I did better there than MetroCon. Obviously, Stratosfur has been around for a couple more years. It's Houston's designated furry show, and I think the promotional art, like the vibe, the venue, like everything about it is really nice. I really like the con itself. That being said, I think this is where I suffered the most. Even though I did better than MetroCon, I feel like I had less transactions overall, or at least it felt like that, because people were looking for a very specific thing. Talk about this in the video, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Houston furry crowd vibe was more so looking for fursuits, accessories for the fursuits, and like on-site commissions. And I didn't offer any of that, so I feel like sales kind of hurt a little bit. That being said, everyone's super nice. Everyone good vibes, everyone has a good time. I was initially hesitant about wanting to do it again, but I want to keep doing furry shows, so I think I'll do it again. So even though money wasn't the best, it was still a good time. My next show after that was Tekko. Everyone I've talked to that has been to Tekko said it's a fun show. It's a really fun show. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does a fun show mean? And after going there, I understand what they mean. The vibes are really nice. Everyone's just really excited for games. A lot of people are looking for some very specific games. However, there were a lot of anime artists and vendors there. So, don't be discouraged. Although I will say, this is a general tip, video games are eternal. Anime is just the flavor of the season. I ended up staying at a hotel that was about 10 to 15 minute walking distance on the other side of town. But I'm used to walking in cities. I lived in New York for 8 years. There are plenty of hotels near the convention center. I just chose a really cheap one that literally I opened the door and it was bed. Man, one of the most beautiful convention centers I've ever been to. It is gorgeous. There's so many scenic places to take pictures of cosplay, just hang out at, and it is really nice. I also hear that it's the same convention as MetroCon, which is the biggest furry convention in America. Hopefully I get in one day. This show was in the middle of July, and I think Friday was a lot of young teenagers, like younger demographics, going around looking for small purchases. They don't got money. Saturday was a lot better. I think people just had work Friday. I've never seen it more noticeable than any other show than Tekko. So keep that in mind. Friday could be really slow. And as I was told by my friend Lindsay, that it is a ribbon con.
Do you have ribbons? Please tell me you have ribbons.
No, dude, I've never done ribbons. Should I do ribbons? Is that a thing I should do? I've never done ribbons before.
This is a ribbon show.
This is a ribbon show?
Yeah. If there is a con you have to bring ribbons to, it's ALA and Tekko.
Fuck. But yeah, hope to get in again. Next show after that, MetroCon. So this is my first time in Florida, and it's in Tampa, Florida. So this was not one of my favorite cons, I'll be honest. It definitely felt like a voice actor heavy con where people just literally ran past Artist Alley just to line up to get the voice actors, and they wanted to get their pictures and autographs from them. And because of that, I feel like people just didn't have money for the vendors. Overall, I did okay. It was below my standards, but I was in the green. I actually split my table for that show because I was like, I wasn't sure if this was gonna be big, but let me just try it. I feel like the vibe there was really weird. Like they revere voice actors way more than they revere artists. I was really in my head that weekend, and I just felt like it just didn't matter, to them. I am applying again just because, just to have a show for that time year, but maybe things will be different if I had my own table. I did not do as well splitting a table. I think the most active the show got was during voice acting panels, like learning how to be a voice actor, panel with a voice actor. I feel like that was the focus for the show. It is star power, not necessarily art stuff. Hey, if you're someone who plans to have merch based on who the guests are at a show, this could be to your advantage. Oh, the biggest reason I want to return though, I really like the food in that area. Early August, it was EVO, my favorite show. Oh my God, my second year there, I got to first go in 2024 and I was happy to be back in 2025. If you're not familiar, EVO is held in Las Vegas. It is the biggest fighting game competition in the world. So you have people coming in from all over, competitors, attendees, like it's amazing. EVO was my best show last year, but for this year, it is now my second best show, Anime Boston still being at the top. The only reason why is that even though I made more at EVO than Anime Boston, my expenses at EVO were ridiculously high. The reason being is for an artist alley table, it is $800. You heard that right. That is one of the most expensive tables I've ever had to pay. If you want apparel, keep in mind, there's nothing different about the size of the table, the size of the booth. You get a big 10 by 10 space and like an 8-foot table. You can decorate it however you want. You can pull the table in. People have done like, you can walk into the booth. People have done like onto the side. You can do all sorts of things. If you want to have any sort of apparel, like I have shirts. If you have any kind of textiles, so like tote bags, jacket patches, like pouches, even any kind of thread, you have to pay the apparel table price, which is $1,200. $1,200, $400 more just to have this stuff. Not a different size booth, not in your own special section, just to have it. So I don't know how much they actually check or crack down on it, but to be honest, I love the EVO community so much. I love that show. I love the staff there. They're on top of stuff. Why not? I'll just do it. So I decided to take it because I have a lot of apparel this year. I decided to take the risk and do it, and it was worth it for me. It's just unfortunate that it is my second best show because of how big my expenses were. If you're familiar with the fighting game show, it's gonna feel slow at times. Saturdays are probably the most busy because that's when all the attendees and the competitors are playing, and a lot of them lose the first round, and then they'll, after losing the tournament, they go out shopping. Sunday probably will be the slowest. It will feel slow. I feel like it's the same. Even though I haven't done a lot of fighting game shows, it's like Sunday will be noticeably slower, and it is up to you to close whenever you want. On the badge, there in the site, there's like, a specific time, but if a finals for a game, the finals in a tournament exceeds that time, the hall is still open. So it is up to you to leave whenever you want. I've seen people be like, I'm just gonna wrap up by dinner time. I wanna go eat. So they just close their booth. I am a fool and have stuck it out all the time. I'm like, what if one person comes by and buys like 4 shirts? And it's happened. It's really up to you. It helps if you have friends there. I really recommend it because it is tough to do it alone. Just make sure to take care of yourselves. But yeah, EVO, oh my God. Love it. I hope to be back next year. Hopefully it won't change too much with the unfortunate acquisitions. If I get in, I'll still be there and still be me. My next show was Sonic Expo Atlanta. So I have done the Sonic Expo Dallas before last year. That was my last show last year, and it was a great time. Sonic Expo Atlanta is the first year for its show. If you're not familiar, Sonic Expo is a fan-run convention focused on the Sonic the Hedgehog community. And for a first show, and it's a fan-run show, I was like, this is a little nerve-wracking. I don't know what to expect. However, I have family. My mother just recently retired to Atlanta, so I was like, okay, let me go, check it out. Now the venue, very, very small. Hopefully they figure that out next year because it was really hot in there. I think the East Coast, or maybe just Atlanta in general, or Georgia, they're just hungry for conventions. They just know convention culture because it was nonstop. It was crazy. People just kept coming and kept buying. People would walk around. The same people would come back after walking up and down the rows and getting something, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna buy another thing. And I'm like, what is going on? The vibes were immaculate. I mean, Sonic Expos are always a good time. And this show was more than 2 times better than Sonic Expo Dallas, which was a local show for me. I didn't have any expenses for Dallas. I had expenses for here. My expenses were around $500 because I was staying with my mom, but like basically just flight and table and parking. I just made so much, and I was like, what could it be? Maybe because I have more merch. I don't know. The scene in Atlanta is they're just ready. They're just ready to support. And if you're curious, I have vlogs on both Dallas and Atlanta, so check them out. My next show is Anime Impulse OC. So this is the first time I'm doing an Anime Impulse. If you're not familiar, Anime Impulse is a collection of shows that includes K-Play Fest, which is like a K-pop themed thing, and Collect Collecticon? I forget what it's called, but it's like cards, like trading cards, mostly Pokemon cards. And then Anime Impulse is just an artist alley. This is my first time experiencing it in OC. Even though I was staying with a friend, my expenses were ridiculous. It's in the Anaheim Convention Center, which is right next to Disneyland. Even though it's a 10-minute ride or 10 to 15-minute lift ride, each lift ride got like $40 to $60, kind of like Seattle, because it was next to Disney. It's only 2 days too. Every Anime Impulse is just 2 days. OC is one of the California ones aside from Anime Impulse LA. I have not done that show yet, which I hear that is the best show, but it seems like a lot of people in OC were happy to come to this show. I did make a profit. I did pretty decent. It's just my expenses were freaking huge. And a lot of people were like, oh man, I love your vlogs. Also, I didn't expect to see you here. Like, why are you here? You traveled for this? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear that. Do I think it's worth traveling to? Honestly, no. I don't think you should fly into it. I was lucky enough to do decent, and I was at the last row facing a shutter. I was like, this is gonna be bad, but I did okay. I don't think I'll do Anime Impulse OC again. I just wanted to see what it was like before Anime Impulse Dallas, which I'll talk about later on. If you're local to the area, I really recommend trying it. Or if you're in LA, like just drive down to it. It's a good taste of what a convention could be like. The table being $420 for 2 days, that's a lot. Next con is TwitchCon San Diego. TwitchCon San Diego was really fun. Venue was beautiful. The table was free. It was a good networking show. It was good to just see people, see the cool art. This space is amazing. You could do so much. Like, I went in and had a friend split with me, you know, because I was like, I don't know if I can fill the space. Next year, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what to do, because I wasn't sure. I didn't have a visual. But after being in that space, I was like, I know exactly how to do this now. It's a really fun show. A lot of cool things to do. I'm very curious what next year's going to be like. Great for the artist alley, maybe not so great for the guests. A lot of unfortunate incidents happened with security this past year. None of it really reached artist alley, which was like above. Like, it was like upstairs. The setup is really easy. The load-in's really easy. Like, because there's so many work orders going on in the day, it can get a little slow, but I just ended up like asking people who were nearby for help, and they were able to help as best as they could. If you want to apply to TwitchCon, I recommend that you have been streaming. I know the limit, the baseline is you must have streamed within 90 days before applying or something like that, but I do stream often. And hey, if you didn't know, you can check me out on Twitch. Sometimes I stream on Twitch, sometimes I stream on YouTube, although YouTube just keeps demonetizing me for random BS, so Twitch is better. Links can be in the description. TwitchCon, I would love to do it again. I think it was my 4th best show this year in terms of profit. Again, free table, and then also, oh my god, you have the exhibitors and artists have their own like break lounge area with food. Oh my god, you can just go in and get snacks and coffee and start your day that way. I felt like a king. My next big show after that was Sonic Expo Dallas. So the big question was Sonic Expo Dallas gonna be better than Sonic Expo Atlanta? You know, Dallas is more established, it has more attendees, it's local to me, so less expenses. I still made less than Atlanta. I was only like $20 off from Atlanta, but still, that's like marginally close. Again, though, I love Sonic Expo Dallas. It's always a really good time. It's always cool seeing the artists there, both new and returning. The only unfortunate thing is like, it's a nice convention center, the Mesquite Convention Center, but it's like in the middle of nowhere. I don't think there's anything around the area, so I do feel bad for people attending, but there are things to do at the con aside from Artist Alley. As long as they'll keep having me, I'll definitely apply to both Sonic Expo Dallas and Atlanta. The next show is another local show, Anime Impulse Dallas. So this was probably my worst show of the year. Yeah, this was my worst show of the year. Numbers wise, it's local and there's barely any expenses, but the table, again, for 2 days for a show that is just established, was $400. This is the first year Anime Impulse has decided to spread their wings to Dallas. I have heard Anime Impulse do other areas before, and those shows have never returned because apparently it just wasn't good. But strangely enough, Dallas already has dates for next year. Will I do it again? I guess because it's local, but oh my god, I was not happy. It was so slow. It also didn't help that the timing of the event, Anime Impulse Dallas, was like a weekend before Anime Frontier, which is like one of Texas's biggest shows. So a lot of people were asking me like, hey, are you going to Frontier? Are you going to Frontier? Because they're saving their money for Frontier. I think a lot of attendees were there because the attendee badge price was so much cheaper than a normal convention. Both Anime Impulses, very VTuber heavy community, so if you have VTuber stuff, if this might be your jam, I definitely recommend applying. It is heavily placement dependent. Oh my god, it's heavily placement dependent, both of these shows. So I was miserable that whole weekend. And my final show of the year is Holiday Matsuri. I was lucky enough to get into Holiday Matsuri. It's my first time in Orlando, so second time in Florida. I gotta say, I loved it way more than MetroCon. Might have made me believe in the Christmas spirit. I don't know. My 6th best show of the year. It was really fun. The festive vibes were great. I love seeing all the cosplays. I hear it's a very cosplay heavy convention, but it's fun seeing not just regular cosplay, but like festive themed versions of cosplay. Everyone was really nice. Gorgeous convention center. Really big. I don't know if they're utilizing all that space. It's really, really big. I ended up staying at a Days Inn hotel that was like about 10-ish minutes walking distance from it, saving some money staying at a cheaper place, but hey, I got some walks in, you know, the weather was nice. I had to leave early and the Artist Alley organizer stopped by and personally thanked me for tabling, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. I didn't expect that. I actually didn't know that they were the Artist Alley organizer at first. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, this show's great. I actually have to leave early though. It's like, oh yeah, I know. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, how did I know? Like, you know, but the big unfortunate thing was the first day they got the times for setup wrong. Maybe they just miscommunication with the building staff. So I got kicked out early and I wasn't able to finish my setup because I would have finished it, but my flight got delayed. So again, if you're traveling, just be prepared for flight delays because it is close to the holidays. So a lot of people are flying to go visit family or just hang out at Disney World. If they'll have me again, I absolutely would return in a heartbeat. What a great show to end the year on. Oh my god. And yeah, those were all 15, again, not counting small markets, but these are all 15 of the conventions I got into this year. And yeah, I've done a vlog for every single one of these shows. There's a playlist you can check out too. It is ordered like newest first, so you might want to go in reverse order if you want to see chronologically, or just look for a specific show that you're interested in researching on. Please let me know down below if these experiences feel similar or different, or what you found good for the show, or what you found advantageous or disadvantageous for the show. Thanks so much for watching. I'll post here's my final like look-see of like my shows ranking in order, I guess. I'll do it based by vibes and then based by money. Once again, if you're not already following me, feel free to like and subscribe, please. It really helps me. But you can also support me on Instagram and Blue Sky, where I'm most active on. If you want to see new art posts from me, it's gonna be there. And as I mentioned earlier, Twitch or YouTube. Sometimes I'm streaming here. Sometimes I'll stream here. Sometimes. They just gotta stop demonetizing me. I got a lot of people this year telling me that they watched my vlogs and found them really helpful. So I'm glad. I know I'm not the most informative. It's usually just me being like, okay, hour 2, still no sales. But thank you so much for supporting. It really means a lot to me. And I hope to do more shows and more vlogs in next year. If you haven't seen this sneak peek on my Instagram, I'll have some new stuff next year as well. Bye.